The night she decides to let you go, she stands at the door for 11 minutes. You know because you count. She has the key in her hand. The locks are on her side. You haven't done anything to earn this moment. Haven't begged, haven't bargained, haven't performed whatever version of harmlessness she needed to see. You've just been here, in this room, being exactly what you are. A person who saw something they weren't supposed to see. A person whose continued existence became someone else's problem. She stands at the door for 11 minutes. Then she puts the key back in her pocket and sits down in the chair. And that's when you understand that the most dangerous thing in this room isn't the locks. It's the fact that she can't use them. Rewind 4 days. You are in a parking garage on the 4th level at 9:47 p.m. because you always park on the 4th level, because the elevator near your spot is faster and the lighting is better, and you are a person who thinks about things like that. Small optimizations for a small, well-organized life. You are thinking about dinner. You are not thinking about the 2 men standing near the stairwell exit. Because men stand near stairwell exits in parking garages. Because this is a city, and cities are full of people doing ordinary things in ordinary places, and your brain has learned to filter out ordinary. The sound is not ordinary. You've heard gunshots in movies. You've heard them described. You don't have time to categorize the sound before the man in the gray suit is on the ground and the other man is looking directly at you. Not past you, not through you, at you. With the specific attention of someone making a calculation. You run. You don't decide to run. Your body decides and takes you with it. Down the ramp, through the exit, into the street. You are half a block away before you register you're moving. You are a full block away before you hear footsteps behind you. Not running, walking, which is somehow worse. And then a hand closes around your arm from a completely different direction, and a voice says very quietly in your ear, "Don't look back. Don't scream. Walk with me, like you know me." The voice belongs to a woman. She is already walking. Her hand on your arm is not a suggestion. You walk with her, like you know her. The room is on the 3rd floor of a building that smells like laundry detergent and old wood. She doesn't cover your eyes on the way there, which means she either trusts you not to run or doesn't care if you try, because you won't get far. She moves through the city with the ease of someone who knows exactly where every exit is in every street they pass through. 1 window, 1 door. A cot against the wall, a chair, a lamp. She sits you down. She stands by the door. She says, "I need you to stay here for a few days." You say, "Who are you?" Not a question. Your past questions. It comes out flat, like something you're reading off a wall. She says, "Someone who got to you before they did." Then she leaves. The locks engage from the outside, 2 of them, one after the other, with the deliberate click of someone who has done this before. You sit in the room and listen to the laundry machines below and try to locate the moment in the last 40 minutes where your life became this. You can't find it. The moment was always coming. You just didn't know to look for it. Her system. She has a system for everything. She checks the window every 40 minutes. You count the intervals, lifting the curtain exactly 2 inches, scanning for 8 seconds, replacing it without sound. She keeps her phone face down, reads without expression, responds in 3 words or fewer. She brings water at regular intervals and sets it on the table without looking at you. She is managing the variables in this room, and you are one of them, and looking at you directly would make you harder to manage. On the 2nd morning, she brings coffee. Real coffee, paper cup, from somewhere outside. She sets it on the table. You say, "Why?" She says, "Caffeine withdrawal makes people irrational." You drink the coffee. She stays while you drink it. When you finish, she takes the empty cup and her hand, just for a moment, doesn't move. She holds the empty cup 3 seconds longer than the task required. Then she takes it and goes. You file that away. The held cup. 3 seconds. Understanding her system is the only form of control available to you in a room where she holds both locks. She tells you in pieces. The man in the gray suit was not random. He was a specific person who knew a specific thing about a specific organization, and the people in that organization had decided that what he knew was more dangerous than what he was worth. The man by the stairwell was the period at the end of that sentence. You were standing close enough to be a comma they hadn't planned for. The man by the stairwell made a call before you reached the street. She intercepted it. She won't tell you how, which means the answer involves something about her own relationship to this organization that she isn't ready to share. What she does tell you, when she heard your description, the clothes you were wearing, the direction you were walking, she had 14 minutes before the people who received that call reached you. She used 11 of them. You look at her for a long time after she says this. You say, "You don't know me." She says, "No." She says it to the window, not to you, like the admission is something she's making to the city outside rather than to the person in the room. "But I know what they do to people who see things they weren't supposed to see. And I couldn't..." She stops. She starts again. "I couldn't walk past that." She says it the way people say things they haven't said out loud before. Not rehearsed, not comfortable. Like the words are surprising even her with how true they are. You sit with that for the rest of the day. She spent 11 minutes running toward a stranger's danger. In a world where the man by the stairwell walked after you, taking his time, making his calculation, because urgency wasn't required. Because you were already handled. In that world, she ran. You don't know what to do with that. So you file it with the empty cup and the 40-minute window checks, and the coffee she said wasn't a kindness. The second night, she falls asleep in the chair. You don't realize it at first. Her stillness looks like her usual stillness, controlled, deliberate, the specific quality of someone who has removed all unnecessary movement from their daily operation. But the rhythm of her breathing changes somewhere around 2 a.m., and she doesn't do the window check at the 40-minute mark, and you understand. She's been awake for somewhere close to 50 hours. And her face. Her face without the control is something you weren't prepared for. You expected hardness underneath. You expected the flat professional surface to be all the way down, the same material all the way through. You expected to look at her sleeping and see the same person you see when she's awake, just with her eyes closed. What you see instead is exhaustion so deep it has become structural. Not on her skin, she's too young for it to show there yet, but behind it. In the slight tension still held in her jaw, even in sleep. In the way her hand rests open in her lap, palm up, fingers loosely curled. Not a fist. Not the controlled stillness she maintains when she's awake. Just open. Like she's been holding something for so long that even her body doesn't know how to stop reaching for it. She ran 11 minutes toward a stranger. She has not slept in 50 hours because she is sitting in a wooden chair in a room above a laundromat to make sure that stranger is still alive in the morning. You sit in the low lamplight and look at the open hand and feel something shift in your chest that has no clean name. Something that makes the word kidnapper feel suddenly like the wrong category. Like calling a tourniquet a wound because it's the thing that's touching you when you're bleeding. She didn't take you. She intercepted you. The room has 2 locks, and she holds both of them. But she hasn't slept in 50 hours, and her hand is open, and you are starting to suspect that the locks are less about keeping you in than keeping something else out. You hear the call the next morning. She steps into the corner, as far from you as the room allows, and speaks in a voice low enough that she believes you can't make out the words. She underestimates how quiet the room is when the laundry machines below haven't started yet. You hear, "He's not part of this." A pause. "I said he's not part of this. What he saw? He doesn't know what he saw. He couldn't identify anyone." Another pause. longer. Then tell him I said so. She ends the call. She stands with her back to you for a moment, hand still on the phone. Then she turns around and her face is completely composed and she looks at you and says, "How do you take your coffee?" You say, "Black." She nods and picks up her jacket. You say, "Thank you." She stops. She doesn't turn around. She stands with her back to you and her hand on the door, and you watch the small muscles along her shoulders do something complicated. She says, "Don't." She leaves. You sit in the room and look at the locked door and think about a woman arguing with someone you've never seen on behalf of someone she doesn't know, using a currency you don't understand, in a negotiation whose stakes you can't fully read. She said, "He's not part of this," like it was a position she was willing to defend. Like your life was something worth taking a position on. On the fourth night, she stands at the door for 11 minutes. You know because you count. Key in her hand, both locks within reach. She has everything she needs to end this, to open the door and tell you to walk and not look back, to return to whatever her life was before a parking garage and a gray suit and 14 minutes made you each other's problem. She stands at the door for 11 minutes. Then she puts the key back in her pocket. She sits in the chair. She looks at you for the first time since the morning of the call. Really looks. Not the inventory check she usually performs. Not the variable assessment. Looks at you the way you've been looking at her. Like she's trying to locate something she didn't know she was searching for. She says, "The situation is more complicated than I initially..." She stops. She starts again. "You can't go yet." You say, "I know." She says, "It'll be a few more days." You say, "I know." She says, "I'm sorry." And there it is. 3 words she didn't plan to say. You can see it in her face. The slight surprise at herself, the small recalibration, the way she looks away immediately after, as if the words embarrassed her by coming out. You've been in this room for 4 days. You've watched her system. You've mapped her intervals. You've seen her sleeping face and heard her argue for your life on a phone call, and watched her hold an empty cup 3 seconds longer than required. You know the shape of what's happening here. The dangerous thing about her isn't the locks. It's the 11 minutes. It's that a woman who moves through the world with the efficiency of someone who cannot afford to feel anything ran 11 minutes toward a stranger and then sat in a wooden chair for 4 nights instead of sleeping, and cannot bring herself to open the door, and just apologized for something she did that also saved your life. That's not a kidnapper. You don't have a word for it yet. You're not sure the word exists. You say, "It's okay." She looks at you. You say, "A few more days." She looks at you for a long moment. Something moves through her face. Not quite the sleeping face vulnerability. Not quite the composed professional surface. Something in between. Something that belongs to neither version of her, and is therefore, you understand, the real one. She nods. She puts the key on the table between you. Not in her pocket. Not on her side of the room. Between you. You look at the key. You look at her. The laundry machines start below. The city does its low frequency outside the curtain. Neither of you touches it. This story is fictional. Lima syndrome, the phenomenon in which a captor develops empathy, attachment, or care for their captive, takes its name from the 1996 Japanese embassy hostage crisis in Lima, Peru, in which captors freed the majority of their hostages over 126 days, with some reportedly unable to carry out orders against people they had come to know. Unlike Stockholm Syndrome, Lima Syndrome is not listed in the DSM-5 and remains an informal behavioral designation. It is, for that reason, almost never written about from the inside. If the moment she put the key on the table hit somewhere you weren't expecting, drop a comment and tell me when you stopped counting the locks. Subscribe for the next one.